Hello, everyone. I'm Sandy Rosenthal, host of Beat the Big Guys podcast, and I'm really excited this week because I have not one, but two guests that we'll be talking to today. Their names are Joe and Dr. Joy Banner. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
You're so welcome. We're going to have a lot of fun today. But first, let me go ahead and tell our listeners a little bit about both of y'all. Joe and Joy Banner are twins. Joe Banner has worked for 20 years in regional, state, and international agency to increase tourism and awareness of Louisiana's rural communities. Her perspective as a slave descendant sparked Joe to create the Descendants Project, a nonprofit organization that fights for more ethical, culturally sensitive, and community engaged representation, especially in the area of tourism. It's Dr. I'm sorry, I've screwed up here. I have Joe Banner, and then it's Dr. Joe expanded the mission to include environmental justice. Is that right?
No, it should just be Joe Banner.
Yeah. Okay. Joe. I've messed up here. I apologize. I think I'm gonna have to start all over again. Joe. So well, I'm just going to continue, and if it doesn't sound right, let me know, and I'll restart it. Okay. Dr. Joe Banner. No, excuse me, that's not right. I have Joe Banner up at the top, and then Joe in the second one. So, which of you expanded the mission to include environmental justice?
That actually was both of us, but
both of you.
My the bio that I gave you.
Okay, what I did is I kind of combined them, and I think I messed up a little bit in the way I wrote this. So let me go into so Dr. Joe Banner. Okay, expanded the mission. Okay, Jess, we're taking it from here. That's my producer. Dr. Joe Banner expanded the mission of the Descendants Project to include environmental justice in order to protect the descendant community she belongs to from the threats of heavy industry while preserving culturally significant spaces such as the unmarked burial grounds of the enslaved. Dr. Joy Banner, Joe Banner's twin sister, is also co-founder of the Descendants Project. Once again, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you very much for having us.
I've been so excited about having you all for months. I learned about you from Naomi Yoder. So wonderful. Now, what I'd like you to do is tell our listeners about the Descendants Project, which I think is just so interesting. And also, if you could get into some of the challenges and some of the successes you all have had up to now.
Sure. Well, as you read in my bio, both me and Joy have been, very involved in the tourism industry. So we had a very unique, I think, perspective of seeing how our area was marketed, especially since we have so much of plantation tourism as part of our area. And so being involved in the tourism area, seeing the way that the history was being represented, seeing the glamorous side that kept, being promoted without much attention being shown to the enslaved, as well as the descendants of the enslaved. So, seeing, we first of all really just wanted to put more of our narrative into that story and have more say in how we're represented, because our, descendants of the enslaved make up the most of the population that's in our area. So we wanted to definitely make sure that that was included. But coming from that standpoint or from that gaze, what it also made us realize is that there's so much more for the descendant community that needs to be improved. So we started, at least I did, started with, very small area of tourism, and it just expanded to become more and more and more about history preservation, but also about environmental justice and how heavy industry is now trying to destroy or can destroy our community, how it can destroy our history. And that's what we really are fighting for the Descendants Project, protecting the descendant community, trying to improve the lives of the descendant community like we are, and fighting against heavy industry like grain terminals who want to come in and destroy it just because they want more money.
So the narrative that was being given at the Whitney Plantation, which I understand used to be called, had another name prior to that. It was a German.
Yes, Habitation Hydell.
Hydell, right. And then now it's the Whitney Plantation. And I've heard so much about it. So the narratives that were being given, was they just missing an entire narrative, or was it actually wrong about the enslaved?
So no,
Both.
so Whitney Plantation is the only plantation in Louisiana, and only one is the first of only two plantations that focus on the lives of the enslaved people. And so every other plantation in this area, which is known as to me is problematically marketed as plantation country, focuses on the owning family, the enslaving family. And, you know, there's a lot of attention to the vernacular architecture, to the furniture, to the landscape. And by the time the time a person finishes the tour, they've had very little information about the lives and experience of the enslaved. And Whitney opened in 2014, and with the mission of informing people about slavery. And, you know, as the Descendants Project, it's very fortunate that we have, you know, a museum that focuses on slavery. We are descended from Whitney Plantation. I'm also the director of communications at Whitney. And so it's a nice extension to what Joe was talking about in terms of growing tourism. And for us, growing tourism means that we are growing economic development that's not so focused on heavy industry and petrochemical that creates pollution. So tourism is very important for us. And to have it represented in a way that makes space, you know, and acknowledges the enslaved people, and then also, you know, again, make space for the descended community is very important for us and our survival and our thriving as a community. So yeah, that's how it's, you know, Descendants Project in Whitney Plantation, and also the cafe that we created. I mean, that is a, you know, a platform for economic, you know, we hope it's a platform for economic development in a way that's more sustainable and more representative.
Well, I've absolutely heard about the wonderful work of the Whitney Plantation, and I even had heard that even before I knew about the good work that you both are doing together. Well, I guess what I was referring to is the other plantations and these other plantation tours that were going on. And so I was wondering about those narratives, and were they completely wrong and sentimentalized, like Gone with the Wind, or was it just absent?
I've seen, I worked for the Tourist Commission of our area. So I was working with 10 different plantations. Whitney was one of the properties that I worked with, but I worked with all of them along the river in St. John, St. James, St. Charles parishes. And I've heard the history represented in so many different ways. The tours taken, you know, one tour, you get a mint julep, you know, before you enter the house. And then you're, you know, walking around the house. And at the end of it, there's like, oh, by the way, as a slave cabins, if you want to go see it, if you got some extra time, go and see the slave cabins that we have there. Well, I had some of them that we always laugh about the candles, the courting candles, and there's so much of tours and many attractions and many locations will focus on this one, you know, kind of silly candle, a courting candle that you would like twist up or twist down according to the amount of time the father wanted to give his daughter to have a date, basically. And so I guess everyone thought this was such a funny story, but I heard it repeated over and over and over again. And just some tried, some actually, I think, put some good thought into talking about the history and talking more about it. I know Laura Plantation did a better job of, you know, representing the side of the enslaved in their tour, but there was some that just totally, you know, ignored it and made it like what's one of the sugar baron narrative. One plantation actually writes newsletter from the standpoint of their dog, who is, you know, the pet of the plantation that's there. And I mean, it's just really trivial the amount of stuff that can go into such a serious part of our history, knowing that enslavement is, you know, is the basis of the plantation system. And to have someone take it in a lighthearted way and not really give it the air and the seriousness that it deserves.
It's unspeakable. I read Gone with the Wind when I was 14. I read it again just a few years ago, and I was horrified representations, and then the movie is even worse. So
Right.
I think the work that you're doing is just absolutely phenomenal, and I think it's wonderful. And so can you thank you for talking about the Descendants Project, because many of our listeners, this is a national audience, have not heard of it. So now they have. And so if you could just talk a little bit about what you hope to accomplish with the Descendants Project, and then maybe talk about some of your, one or two of your successes.
Well, the Descendants Project, what we hope to accomplish as, as our organization is, first of all, we've been on this land as descendants. Well, I mean, as people, right? Because descendants we're not placeholders for our ancestors, but we are very much inspired and honored to be the descendants of our ancestors, especially, the enslaved Africans, and their descendants. And we love our community. And that's what we do comes out of the love for our community, the love of our heritage. We grew up on land that has been in our family for over 100 years. And, our specific neighborhood is literally made up of our extended family. So it's like a family compound. And there are small communities like this all up and down the River Road. Small Black communities that were formerly free towns, it has a history of, people being descended from enslaved people. And so for us, what we want to do is protect our heritage and our history. Now, we love it. We love being in a rural community. We love the fact that we are along the river, that we're next to the levee, that we have, green grass and space. And so what we do comes out of the love for that community. So we really are, trying our best to fight back against, the industries, the systems that tell us that we are not important, either because we're rural, either because, people that are, politically motivated or financially motivated to bring in dangerous industry into our communities and, make us feel bad because, well, you are holding back progress just because we don't want economies that will kill us, that are literally killing us. And so the purpose of the Descendants Project, like Joe was talking earlier about, the tourism aspect and how important the tourism industry is for us, but also to continue to grow that history and that heritage, especially African-American history that is not represented now. So that is the burial grounds. Those are, again, the history of free communities, the agricultural landscape and our connection to land, West African, German, French traditions that we still, hold near and dear to us. At the same time, creating sustainable economies, getting people in touch with their heritage, and just being a resource for the community. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. And we're very, I think we're at our happiest when we are in our communities and fighting to protect, the lovely community and history and heritage that we have.
That sounds phenomenal. So,
thank you.
And can you share with us a battle or that you might have waged in that you feel like you had some success?
Well, I think that for us, for the this recent, we found out in March that we have a grain terminal, a massive grain facility that is planning to relocate right next to our neighborhood. So it would displace us. There's no way that we could live next to it. We have structures as tall as 300 feet in the air, as tall as the Statue of Liberty, 250 acres. If anyone is familiar with what it's like to live next to grain terminals, lots of dust, lots of noise, traffic. The dust that we would breathe would literally have, dead insect parts, dead rodent parts, scraps of metal in it. And already, since we're in Cancer Alley, we already face a very high pollution burden. So for us, I mean, it's daunting, but I feel like we have been very successful in pushing back because we found out about this early. We had communicated with Tulane Environmental Law Clinic after we heard rumors of a grain terminal about 2 years ago. TELC has done some amazing work in the community. I reached out to them and said, hey, I'm hearing about this. I hear about this grain elevator. And when the public notice was issued for the grain terminal's construction, the first day I was contacted by Dr. Kim Terrell from Tulane Environmental Law Clinic and said, hey, just letting you know, there was a public notice that went out today. And since then, we have just acted as immediately. We organized as quickly as we could. And I think that has made the difference in us being able to keep them on their toes. Usually we had, media articles that came out. We were featured in NPR. We now we've built our contingency of people that are in solidarity with us. I posted a petition to sign on Whitney's social media. I think we're up to about 4,500 signatures in a matter of 2 days. Wow. The battle is still going, but I think that we've had many successes along the way. It's being aware and having that information. And when you hear rumors in your community, then I think just ask questions and reach out to whatever resources that are available to you.
So Dr. Kim Terrell, in my memory, she's a scientist with the Environmental Law Clinic.
Yeah, right? Environmental Law Clinic, right? Exactly.
Yeah, and she's a scientist. That's my understanding.
Right.
So, and that's a resource that will probably be more useful to people in Louisiana, but that's a very, very good resource to be aware of at Tulane University. I think. Oh. Well, I was just getting ready to say that's a fantastic success. That's amazing.
Well, thank you, and then I think too that just to point out, since it's a national audience, that there are probably, I know there are other universities that offer the same types of help and resources. So I guess another tip is reach out to universities and see if they have environmental programs, especially environmental law programs.
Absolutely. So you mentioned something that I think is so critical, that you feel that it's an honor to serve your community, that you enjoy it, and that's where you're happiest. Mm-hmm. And that is something that is so important, and that's why you beat the big guys. It's that heart. And that you're not being paid for this, and no amount of money would be enough anyway, because meanwhile, the big guys that you're fighting, they're just doing this for a paycheck, right? And they go home on the weekend wherever they are, and they're just punching a time clock. So it's that, and I'm so glad you touched on that. I wrote it down, that you feel honored to do this work.
Yes.
And that's what carries you through, and that's how you win.
Yeah, exactly.
And keep winning. And speaking of wins, these successes that you discussed are absolutely fantastic, phenomenal. To get that kind of in 2 days, to get how many signatures did you get?
I have to check the numbers, but about 4,700.
That's incredible, because people are busy. And if you were able to get that kind of traction, that's amazing. And not luck. It's not luck. It's good old fashioned work. And it's also okay to celebrate these successes. I remember, I've written my book's behind me, but I used to feel a little shy about celebrating successes, until someone explained to me, one of my advisors is shouting out your successes is a way to build your credibility, and a way to show your supporters that their work is generating results.
Absolutely right.
And it's okay.
A win for us is a win for the community, so I think it's very important to know that the community wants to hear when you're winning, and they want to know what's working. And so we are a collective we're a collective organization, and we work with many different organizations. You mentioned Naomi, and Healthy Golf has been an amazing resource for us Naomi, Scott, everyone, Sheen who's come out, and Michael, of course, their team has been so helpful in addition to other organizations like CCR who help, but being connected to all of these different resources and having the intelligence and the expertise combined with ours. I mean, it's a win, it's a success for everybody. So I agree with you with promoting those successes, because you have so many organizations that they need to hear those stories to know that their work, they need to know what's working with them as well. Although they come with really good templates, and a lot of times, sometimes I think every case can be unique and show you a different dimension or dynamic that they can use for further, other cases that's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And the importance of allies can't be overstated. As talented as you both are, and I can see how talented and smart and dedicated you are, you can't do this alone.
You cannot do it alone. You cannot.
I started out with just my 15-year-old son, and I couldn't have done it without him because he was the webmaster and he put everything online. I couldn't have done it without him, but I still had to continue to bring in allies and continue to bring in experts, like someone in engineering, because I was working with the Army Corps of Engineers, and I needed someone that knew how to work with marketing and online tools and social media. So the importance of allies cannot be understated, and it's okay to ask for help and accept help when it comes.
Especially from your community members too, the organizations, but make sure to ask the community how they can help and what they can do to help, and staying in touch with them and involving them in the work that you do.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think with us, when our success, with the against the grain terminal, grain elevator, is the way that we've been able to combine the knowledge from the community knowledge, from the legal, from the scientific, from our urban planner who's a cartographer. I look at a map and and I can't process the information that's on a map, right? But he can look at it and instantly see things that stand out to him. But there's those little nuances, there's those little intricacies of the map that come with community knowledge. So there are ways in which we've all been able to navigate and I think uplift each other's expertise so that everyone's knowledge is respected, even if it's coming, not even, but especially if it's coming from my 94-year-old great uncle who says something and it's like, it always fits into, no matter what we're talking about, it's always the nugget of knowledge that will break open and reveal a new path forward. So I think we are so great to work with a team that's extremely humble, that we all appreciate when somebody says something. Nothing is discounted. Nothing is discounted. We always take a second look at it, dig a little deeper and hit it. It has revealed some amazing facts and revealed things as part of the Descendants Project, and with such a love of history and heritage. There is so much information that we did not know that has been revealed through this process, which to me makes it feel divinely inspired and divinely guided. So I do think that, reminding people, in addition to celebrating your successes, being grateful for the blessings that are being shown to you in that process.
Absolutely. I think it was Joe that you mentioned that you got a story in NPR. This was covered by NPR. So the media, if you can get your message in the media, that's great, because the media is a free way to get your word out there, to get your message out there, and it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And if you can, I caution our listeners, don't judge yourself by whether or not the media covers your message. Never judge yourself by it. All it means, that doesn't really mean a thing. That it is, they do not decide the value of what you're doing. The media does not. But nonetheless, that said, if you can get your message in the media, do it. And so that leads me to my question is, how did you pull that off, getting on NPR?
Well, and so first of all, just talking about the media and NPR. We had 2 articles with NPR out, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But don't discount your local media, your local papers, because all politics is local, right? And so an article that's in your local paper may have more impact, will probably have more impact than something that's in the New York Times. So it depends on where you are, where we're located. I think our local paper has just as much, influence, and it's a heck of a lot easier, to get into your local paper. Another easy way is use your Facebook, your Instagram, your Facebook Lives. That has been, the word has gotten out more than we realized on Facebook. So anybody can use that platform. It's really easy.
And it's free.
And it's free. And don't discount yourself because 70 people viewed your video, or 30 people liked a photo that you posted. Somehow, either through word of mouth, or either sometimes people they don't like to have themselves tracked on Facebook, especially if it's a controversial topic. People get very paranoid about it. So sometimes folks will either screenshot your photos and share it that way, or they may record your Facebook Live and share it that way, or they'll just talk about it. But just because it's not racking up a huge amount of numbers doesn't mean that it's not being successful. So always take, the one person who watches your video may be the one person who needed to watch it. So just to uplift, different types of media. But what happened with NPR, that's actually through my connection at Whitney Plantation. One of my board members had an article written about him in Essence magazine, about his participation at Whitney's board and his desire to have all plantations memorialize enslaved Africans and their descendants. And so the writer from NPR reached out about my board member. And I said, sure, I'll contact you. But while I have you on the phone, here's this other issue that is going on. And John Burnett, who was an amazing writer, he was like, okay, I think that I'm actually going to come down and visit with you and find out more about this. Okay. So he came down, he wrote the article. We just spent some wonderful time with him. And he spent time with our family. And then that actually turned into another article because he contacted me after Hurricane Ida. He was down in the area and he was like, hey, Joe, I'm just checking on you and just finding out what's going on, what's happening on your end. And for us, we had rode out the Hurricane Ida in the big house of Whitney because we were so afraid that morning. We were just like, let's go to the house that's been there since 1791. And he featured that in NPR as well. So it's just when you have an opportunity to engage with the media, don't be shy to put your story out there.
Don't be shy. And absolutely, that was really brilliant. I read that story. John Burnett did a good story. I didn't realize it was by John Burnett. He did a great job. Yeah, he's wonderful. He's from Texas. So, and you said something else that I think it was Joy that said this, that you never know. You were talking about don't be concerned if only 70 people have watched your video, because the one person who needs to see it might be in that mix. And I can't overstate how important it is, when you're feeling a little down because progress is moving slower than you thought it would, or that it's a little harder than you thought it would be. I said, when you have those days, and you'll have those days, okay, so just remember that you may have already won and don't know it yet.
Yes. That's so key.
It's so key. In fact, the climax of my book is when I cried for 2 weeks because I thought I'd failed, turned up I'd won, and I didn't know it yet, and I didn't give up. So don't give up. So this has been an incredible conversation, but I can't close without saying, is there anything else that you would like to add for our listeners today?
I would like to remind everyone, or just encourage everyone, that when these heavy industries come into your area, the first thing they want to do is move quickly. And they tell everybody, hey, we're looking at your area. Y'all need to make decisions very quickly. your council people, your government, they all need to make these decisions very, very quickly, or else this moment will be gone, this money will be gone, and then you'll feel bad because you lost out on this big opportunity. The most important thing I think that we have done was to slow the whole process down and to get in there and say, before you make a move, we want to have our public comments. We want to have our say. Stop trying to push us. Stop trying to make us sell our land. We want to take the time. You deserve to have time to make these decisions. And you'll notice that whenever this happens, they'll just start pushing to rush. If an opportunity leaves you because they can't give you enough time, that was not enough. That was not the right opportunity for you as well. It's better that they be gone and to destroy your community because you felt you were rushed and pressured. And so many of our people involved, our politicians who caved in, I think, because they felt rushed and they panicked. Don't panic. Just take your time, strategize, take a breath, pray, meditate, take a walk, whatever you do, just strategize, take your time with the whole situation.
That is fabulous, fabulous advice. And Dr. Joy, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just remember that for anyone that's going up against the big guys, especially when they're coming into your community, you are the expert. No one knows you. No one knows more than you and your community. You know all the, all the secrets, all the advantages, the history. And so do not let, kind of in line with Joe was saying, don't let anyone come into your community and tell you that they know better than you. Now, it's always important that you are, don't be so insular to not consider information that could help you, right? So like an outside perspective can help you fight off the big guy, to add on to, to amend what you already have at your core. But at all means, you are the expert. Trust it.
And believe in yourself.
And believe in yourself. And they make lots of mistakes. The big guy, the disadvantage of being the big guy is that people don't challenge them a lot. And so they're sloppy. They're so sloppy. We found something on the Corps of Engineers, the public notice for the grain terminal, that immediately after we pointed the issues with the public notice, the company took the public notice down. Right. And so they just recently put it back up, and you can tell the difference in the way that the language is stated. Even the Corps of Engineers is more careful with what they're putting out there.
The big guys make very big mistakes.
They make very big mistakes, very big mistakes. So, yeah, I mean, they're not infallible. David, David got Goliath. And so like you are the David, and so, yeah, I think the world is yours. Just believe in yourself.
This is such amazing advice. I agree so completely. And the big guys are not infallible, and you are the expert. Not to say don't accept advice and guidance. Right. And another thing, consider it advice and guidance, that you don't have to take orders from.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So, well, this has been absolutely beautiful. I'm so excited. And again, thank you, Joy and Joe. I'm going to start all over again. Again, thank you, Joy and Joe Banner, for joining me. And I hope all of you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on all of your favorite platforms. And remember, no matter who you are, you can beat the big guys.
Yes. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Hold on. Don't hang up just yet. I'm going